Hello and welcome to CNBC TV 18's Mumbai Newsroom. I'm Sumaira Abdi and you're watching MF Corner. Two interesting topics today. Joining in first will be Mrin Agarwal of FinSafe India. She'll be talking about which is the right way for investors to get their MF grievances addressed. And a little later, Harshvardhan Roonghta of Roonghta Securities will join in to talk about STPs versus SWPs, systematic transfer plans and systematic withdrawal plans. What is the use and applicability for both? So first up, let me invite Mrin Agarwal of FinSafe India. And, the reason I asked Mrin to talk about this issue of grievance redressal is because increasingly, if you open a social media site, you're seeing a lot of queries going towards the asset management companies, and a lot of them are grievances. I couldn't get my redemption processed on time. Why wasn't my application accepted on time, and so on and so forth. So, I was wondering why more and more people are reaching out to AMCs through social media. Is it that the traditional channel is not working or not working well enough? So which is the right way to go about it? So first up, we have Mrin joining in. Hi, Mrin. Thanks very much for joining in. So what is the official way, the most practical way, official way to get your MF-related grievances addressed?
Good afternoon, Sumaira. And as always, lovely to be here today. So the first point of contact should always be the intermediary through whom you've invested. It could be a platform, it could be a financial advisor, it could be a bank. I think the first point of contact always needs to be the intermediary through whom you've invested. In case if you have made a direct investment, then of course, yes, you should reach out to the fund house, to the AMC with whatever grievance you have. And, there are many channels through which you can do it. You can do it through email. You can call them on the phone. You can, of course, visit them at their branches as well. But I think, the first thing is to actually reach out to the intermediary through whom you've invested.
Okay. Mrin, just a follow-up question on this. If you're reaching out to the AMC, do you write to them or, do you just visit their website, find a tab and contact them from there?
There are various touch points. So you could do it. If you have an account, then you can, of course, log in and raise a query. You can do it through email as well. You don't necessarily actually need to visit the branch at all.
So how do you escalate the issue if you're, say, not satisfied with the response provided by the AMC?
Well, you have an option as an investor to go and register your complaint on the SCORES website of SEBI. And here what happens is that, again, you need to create a login ID and create an account, basically. And you need to mention the nature of your queries. There are some preset queries that are there. Of course, one of the questions that is often asked is that, have you already registered a complaint of this sort with the AMC? And ideally, what I feel is that only if you've not got a satisfactory response from the AMC, then you should go to SCORES and register a complaint at SCORES. So what happens is that once you do that, the complaint is analyzed by SEBI and they will check with the AMC. Once, of course, you provide what was the reference number with the AMC. And then they will get back to the investor on the AMC response. And typically, these complaints are responded to within 30 days.
Okay. The other thing is that, Mrin, and probably I should have begun by asking you this. What are the kinds of practical issues faced by investors? If somebody is watching this, hasn't thought of reaching out to an AMC, just wanted to understand what are the kind of issues for which you can reach out to AMCs and how do you get them resolved?
So the most common one is really about investor details not being correct. So, for example, mismatch in the spelling, that could be a very, very common one. Or, the email ID, again, there could be a mismatch over there. Other than that, now with a lot of investors transacting online as well, I think there are a lot of queries relating to online portals in terms of NAV allotment. So, you put an order on a particular date, but you got NAV of the next date and stuff like that. And that's also because of the fact that now the NAV allotment is on the credit of the funds, right? So again, the same issue with the redemptions. There could be cases where dividends have not been credited. And of course, the stamp duty related queries are there as well, where people are not aware as to why the full amount is not showing in the account statement. So these are the typical queries that are received, but most of them are to do with correction in the investor details.
Okay, so those who are watching, these are all the kind of, typical kind of queries which you can send to your AMC or alternatively to the advisor or distributor through whom you have invested. Mrin, ideally, what is the timeline under which these grievances should be addressed?
Well, from what I hear from the AMCs and in my own experience, I have seen that the timeline can range anywhere between 2 to 5 working days. Yeah, typically that's what it's supposed to be. And as I mentioned, if you do register a complaint on scores, then it's going to be within 30 days.
Okay. Are there cases under which would require that, a written complaint be mailed or sent by post?
I don't think so. I think everything can be just done digitally these days. I don't think that, unless there's this submission of documents, right? So for example, if somebody wants to change their bank address and or their bank details, then of course they do need to provide the old bank check and the new bank check. So I mean, in these cases, when you have to submit documents, then of course you would need to send these documents. But per se, for the query or for the complaint, you do not need to send anything by post.
Okay. As an investor, can we and should we track the number of complaints against, say, an AMC in which, I may have invested in some of their schemes? What does it tell me if, there is a significant number of complaints against an AMC, and what is a routine number?
So yes, you can track it. You can track it on the AMFI website. There is a tab called Investor Complaints that you can find there. And typically what happens is that every month, the number of complaints are uploaded. You can also see the number of complaints for the financial year, and you can also see under what categories these complaints are. So again, when I looked at it, most of the complaints were under the correction and investor details tab. And typically, I saw that most AMCs had the ratio of number of complaints versus folios to be less than 0.5%. So I think that's not a really bad number. And, considering the fact that most of these are to do with correction in investor details.
Okay, so let me ask you about that. Since you're saying that most complaints are to do with data correction, so what is a good way for investors to check and keep a regular track, say, of their account statement, of their data?
I think one of the things that I have personally found very effective is the NSDL ECAS statement that comes every month. And why I like this statement is because, one, it captures all your investments, like, for example, bonds, shares, mutual funds, sovereign gold bond. So everything is there. So even if you have a PMS, it gets captured over there, right? Everything is captured there in much detail. You also have a section that shows you the transactions that you have done for the month. And there is also a section over there that shows you that for each of the folios that you're holding, what is the mode of holding? So is it joint? If so, who are the holders? Is there a nominee? What is the email ID? What is the phone number that you have against this particular folio? So I find that to be a very, very useful statement where you can see everything at one shot. I'm sure for people who are investing through intermediaries and financial advisors, I'm sure that they would also be providing a very detailed statement. But if you want to do a cross check and you want to check a statement, this is one option. The second option that you have, again, is to do a mailback of statement either from CAMS or from Carvi. So in CAMS, for example, under the Investor Services tab, you have this mailback of statement across all RTAs, right? And again, there you can do it based on transactions or based on whatever date you want to or whatever time period. And for a particular PAN, it will send you back or under a particular email ID, it will send you back all the accounts or the folios that you're holding with detailed listing of transactions. So actually, this is a very good way, and it's a very good hygiene check that's available for investors who have invested through anybody. It doesn't matter. But if you just want to check the veracity of your statements, this is actually a very, very good way to check it. And as I said, even bank details are captured out there. So you have one statement that is showing you all the information related to this particular folio. Also, I would like to mention, that's a good way to check whether all investor details are mentioned correctly or not. And of course, for capital gains too, you can go to the RTA websites, which is CAMS and CARVI, and ask for a mailback of your capital gain statements as well. So there are these tools, simple tools that are available to all investors today.
Got it. Mrin, thanks very much for joining in and for explaining this. So basically, you don't have to just rage on social media. There is another way to do it, and a faster way as well. Okay.